All right, to my guest, thank you so much for being on the show. How you doing? How you feeling?
Feeling great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I think I met my guest last week and I heard she was a host for a breast cancer awareness event. And I think one of the things that gravitated towards me towards your story is how you was so like upbeat and just was very what's the word? Optimistic about having breast cancer and being a survivor. Because one of the things you said was one of the benefits of surviving was you have perky breasts now.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was like, I never heard nobody say this. I was like, let me get her on the show.
Thank you.
Of course. And also, I told you this off the air, but my listeners know this, but I've been doing this for 6 years now, my podcast, and I never had thank you. I never did an episode about breast cancer awareness. So I think this is very important for us to have this conversation, especially since breast cancer don't discriminate, because when we have our second guest join us later on, she was diagnosed at 26. So I was just like, yeah, it's time to do an episode on this. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Now, do you think there's a stigma around breast cancer in the Black community? And if so, how does this affect conversations around health and diagnosis?
Absolutely. I think Black people as a whole, we've been traumatized from slavery, PTSD, to Henrietta Lacks, to
Yeah.
the experiments. So we're not
Hmm.
put to volunteer. We're, told to keep things, keep it in the family. Don't put your personal business out in the streets. So
Yeah.
that becomes a problem. And a lot of times we're not passing down information that Big Mama had diabetes, which, you should know, change your eating habits and also to be vigilant about. Auntie so and so had the C word. What is the C word?
Cancer.
So,
Right.
and so we've made it sometimes where it's a taboo topic. And knowing your history can save your life with early prevention, testing, diagnoses, which a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. So I think that when I was diagnosed, my father, I think, was more of the person, which my parents are at the event. My dad was more like, when are we going to talk about it? Once he knew that I was going to survive, he would jump into
Hmm.
that mode. My mom, surprisingly, was more quiet. She was more private.
Really?
And you wouldn't think so. My mother's a retired ER/ICU nurse, but my mom is more keep it at your chest, right? And then it was like, my baby has this. And I guess it was very hard for her, like my baby has this.
Yeah.
And tell her, I said, Mom, I don't want you to think, I don't want you to look at it as something dirty. It's not like I was out in these streets and I got cancer,
Right.
you know? And I was like, and
Right.
that made her laugh, but I was like, oh, really? So I was like, this is something that if God is gracing me with life, then I'm going to pass it on to others. And she thought I was lost my mind when I said, look, I want to do an advocacy. I want to talk about it. She was like, aren't you going through treatment? My parents are very West Indian.
Yeah.
What kind of foolishness is that? I was like, no, 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 I'm going to do it. And so it started with me just recording things. And I started doing YouTube and recording that. Then eventually interviewing friends who were in medicine, oncology colleagues, psychologists, which is important for your mental health. And I, was afforded the privileges to start speaking with women's groups, the Divine Nine, the United
Hmm.
Nations. The advocacy was birthed. So out of, lemons.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, because I read this somewhere, which I didn't know, but I read that somewhere that breast cancer screening rates are often lower in the Black community.
Part of it is access, like where do we
Mm,
go to get them? Number two, do I have insurance? Will my insurance
yeah.
cover? And there's so many grants and so many free mammographies that go around. Number three, the fear of not knowing enough about breast cancer, so you don't want to know that you have it,
Right.
or that you might have had someone who was treated and didn't survive for whatever the reasons may be, and so that terrifies you, which you don't want to know because you figure not knowing will, we're protecting and it will not. And
Right.
so, for those reasons, it's great when somebody looks like us that we can talk to, whether it be a woman or a Black person. But at the end of
Hmm.
the day, once the provider, I don't care if the provider is pink, that can identify, respect you as a person, and listen to what your symptoms are, and be vigilant in terms of the workup and diagnoses. That's all you need. That ace in your corner to make sure that you're getting the appropriate care that you need.
Yeah, and that segues into my next question on how important is it for Black women to see stories like yourself represented in the media or public health campaigns?
I think it's very important. I think the gift that I was given, my best friend, I have a male best friend, and I
Hmm.
remember he told me, he said, if anybody was to get cancer with you, I was mad for years, okay? Because I was tight, because I took it as, why me? Like, why? I
Right.
it was my business. But what he meant, now that I can process what he said, was anybody who's going to make something ugly turn into something beautiful. And I get it now what he's trying to say. I think that, me getting cancer and surviving it is a blessing, obviously, to survive it.
Yeah.
But also that I'm in medicine. So medicine a lot of times looks at things as us versus them. Us got cancer. Us, I had colleagues who couldn't even talk to me. They were in tears. Where I had to call somebody back because they couldn't handle it. I felt like I was holding a lot in to protect
Yeah.
colleagues and friends. So if I have people like yourselves, or people like, oh, you're so cool to talk to. You're a doctor. I'm a human first. I'm a woman second. I'm a
Yeah.
Black person all day, and
And she
I,
lit, y'all. She low key lit.
thank
She
you.
be outside.
I enjoy life. Life is short. It taught me that. There are people
Yeah.
that I started shooting with who are no longer here. Christina Donaldson, former CEO of TGIN, no longer here. Chadwick Boseman from colorectal cancer, no longer.
Yeah.
To be hitting my 5 years this December, that's a milestone in the cancer world. That means you beat it. And I just want to celebrate the time that God has given me until the very, very end. So I try to be upbeat. I try to talk to people. I just got off the phone doing an interview. I just got off the phone earlier with a sister who needs care for, she has a tumor in her uterus. That's a big deal. Connecting her with Dr. Nicola Pemberton, one of the baddest women in the game for
Yeah.
obstetrics and gynecology. So if that's the purpose that God wanted me to do, then I'm going to do it. And, I'm going to make sisters laugh. Like we talked about, no waxing, you lose pubic hair. Hey, you save that money. Hey, hey.
Right, right.
I have people who look at me and they're crying with laughter because I can say it. Sometimes other people who are not going through this are not sure, like, should you laugh? Is it appropriate?
Yeah.
But I mean, the best comedians, a lot of the things come out of pain. Who knows what will happen from you? But if we can make some light out of it, it makes it a dark, lonely, scary place.
Yeah, I will say, you definitely made a heavy topic very light. Like y'all, she had this dress on, she was hopping around, telling jokes and
I was
stuff,
in
but
my cute mode. I was demure.
yeah, very classy, very demure. But it was also very insightful because I do feel like since this topic is so heavy and it affects all of us, I think you did a really good job with, putting the medicine in the candy because you definitely had my attention. It was a lot of young girls that was in the building and they was very alert. Like they was kikiing, like asking questions and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's time for me to get her on the show. Yeah, it was really good.
I'd love to see women and men, but I mean, men are affected 1 to 2%, with African Americans having a higher rate.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that it's beautiful to see young women because you know what? We could be your mothers, your aunties. And
Big
these are the
sisters.
questions, big sisters. You should be asking your mothers, your aunties, did you have cancer? And if so, then that young woman needs to be tested 10 years earlier. So if your mother was diagnosed at 44, at 30, to be making sure that you are getting mammograms and ultrasounds. Mammograms and ultrasounds. Why? Because a mammogram, you can only see so much. I see this because of
Right.
the ultrasound, as I said, now opens it up where I can see through my hand and be like, oh, I see this, I see this, I see this.
Mm-hmm.
So those important, these are conversations that are not sexy. Gen Z and lower and younger millennials, we may be a little boring, but your aunties and your mamas are keeping up to make sure
Right.
the big sisters that we see you guys do better than we did.
Yeah. Now, what would you say are some common misconceptions that you encounter about breast cancer?
Oh, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose both breasts.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna
That
throw
breast
up.
cancer only show up in lumps where it can
What you mean?
manifest
My
in.
mama never had it. How I had it. So
Yeah.
I'll drop some pearls. 80% of cancer is not genetic. Is
Mm-hmm.
not. So that means, not having a child by the time you're in your 30s, being overweight, stress that many of us carry. A lot of times we want to think Gen X thinks it's only them, but millennials and Gen Z have stress.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the food eating, we could go into conversations about organic food versus non-organic versus farm fresh versus GMO, modified. I mean, all those things. Exposure to radiation. I, take x-rays, when I'm in the operating room, things of that nature. There's so many things. Um, you
I feel
know,
like you can't win for losing.
win for losing. You have to put your best foot forward,
Yeah.
work out. I know, sometimes I'm like, girl, but work out, walk. eat better, get that cheesecake if you need to on a weekend, but also eat, that salad. Um,
Yeah.
and see your doctor. A lot of times I tell people I'm in a work for a federally qualified health center. It is a privilege, and it shouldn't be considered that, but it is a privilege that we have insurance. Use it. Go
Yeah.
see your doctor. Do the preventative care. Better, I tell my patients, I'd rather you laugh with me about, girl, you think you have something, be cracking up in the office versus me holding your hand later because it is.
Yeah.
And so do that and find doctors. If you can't get an answer from your doctor, I'm not perfect. There's times I fall short. You should be able to leave your doctor knowing you got an answer. If not,
Yeah.
insurance pays for second and a third opinion. And then there's advocacy like mine, okay?
Yeah.
Which we're here to answer questions. I just held this his hand earlier on the phone, like, girl, we're gonna get through this. And she's set up in 5 minutes, COBGYN Friday, okay? Which you can't normally get. Watch things like the Touch Black Breast Cancer Alliance, which does clinical trials and has a show on blackdoctor.org every Wednesday at 6 p.m. You learn a plethora of information. I've been
Mm-hmm.
on as doctor affected by cancer. Patient has also been as a doctor talking about neuropathy, nerve problems that happens with chemo and or radiation. So there's resources. And as much as we're on our phones constantly looking at Facebook and TikTok, we can be on our phones looking at information that can save our life, our sister's life, or our brother's.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke about how you are approaching 5 years of being cancer free. So how does that journey approaching that milestone feel?
So many things open up to you in terms of health insurance. I mean, I have health insurance, but even disability insurance, when you work for companies sometimes, famous Aflacs and these, they look at that where you're not insurable, you're at risk. So you hit that 5 year mark. So to me, that's amazing. I like
Hmm.
to celebrate everything. My parents celebrate, you got an A, you get a cake.
Right.
Well, you got your driver's license, let's go out to eat. We were that type of family. And so I plan to turn up, you know, for my birthday. I'm like, why not? I was blessed to have DJ John Quick and one of my
Hmm.
Marissa Saxatorn who helped throw my virtual 45th birthday party. My sorority sisters dropping off gifts and people logging on. I celebrated my cancerversaries, as I called, with Touch Black Breast Cancer Alliance, my family on, friends on, my friend Bill Parrish being comedian. Um, life is short. I think you should celebrate the way you see fit. And for me, I love people. And to have friends around and family to say, hey, girl, we're here with you on this journey. You did it with God's grace is amazing. So
Yeah.
you turn it up in December.
Oh, I already know you turning up. I'm gonna be right there, like, come on now. Cause she be bouncing around. I'm like, yo, where is she?
Energy, people ask me, where does this energy come from? And I said, it's the grace of God. I'm a Christian. A lot of us go to church. It's God. I've always been an extrovert. I think I've always had that personable personality.
Yeah.
As I said, I'll fall short. Some days get me on the wrong time. It may not be your luck, but I like people. I like hearing people's stories. I like hearing people's journeys. I
Me
like people.
too.
That excites me, makes me happy when I see people win. I'm that person that will hold your hand through the ugly times as well, because life, as they say, life be lifing.
Yeah.
The ugly times as well. So for me, I think the energy comes out of that joy for having that, and that I can give back to people who can receive the message. So you were there.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. But I also think that people need to see a physical manifestation of hope. And I think you embody that. So
Thank you.
I think that you do a really good job with just being yourself and just having that infectious energy and just like, people need that sometimes because you never know what people going through.
And I tell people, that famous saying, check on your strong friends. Check
Yeah.
on your strong friends. Just because someone's smiling, you have no idea what's going behind it. Sometimes
Facts.
people have a bad day, it's because all hell is breaking loose. So check
Yeah.
on them. Sometimes we jump to, girl, I don't know why she had an attitude with me. Check
Yeah.
on them first before assuming anything. And the ones that say, I'm fine, I'm fine. I think I can be like that at times. Sometimes I'm not fine. I need you to be like, girl, cut it out and talk to me, or put your arms around me, friend, or have you, and let that person be. I think those are the moments where you see true friendship, and someone can just be like, I'm here just to listen and sit with you.
Right. Right. Now, can you take us back to the moment when you first received the news?
girl.
And what those, I already know because I did research on you and I was like, wait, she got this during the pandemic because it was like the early stages of it in 2019.
Listen, when I tell you this was a test, they talk about walking through the trials of fire. It
Yeah.
was a test. So, history, I had, as I said, women of color have dense breasts. I had something called a fibroadenoma, which is a non cancerous mass at 16. I had it removed. It came back again when I was in residency, had it removed, and I was great. The 17 hits, I'm a full fledged attending, working in Jersey, and it came back. And I was like, this must be a fibroadenoma. My OBGYN, as I said, is Dr. Nicola Pemberton from Artemis OBGYN, who's amazing, and connected me with my surgeon, Dr. Margaret Sacco. Examined ultrasound, mammogram. I was already in my, this 40s. So, I mean, this was okay, no problem. Then 218, it became painful. I had a fine needle aspiration or biopsy, negative. So I was like, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm busy. I'm taking care of patients. I used to practice in New York City, then I
Right.
was practicing in Jersey. So, a lot of people have been my patients. 19, I delayed doing it, which I blame myself partly, but hindsight's 2020. I was going to the vineyard. So I was like, I'm out.
Oh, I saw.
Right? And so when I came back, I had it done and it was positive. The first thing I thought, but it's not cancer. So I spoke to my mother who said I had a positive mammogram ultrasound, but my biopsy was negative. You'll be fine. So I delayed it yet again. And because I figured, okay, I'm so busy, I'm in the OR, I'm doing this. I was in my very crazy busy mode. I did it the day after Thanksgiving. Figured I'd have time to recover, go back to work on Monday.
Right.
And then Tuesday, I got the phone call. Many people don't get that call. They get a call to come in. My surgeon, again, I'm privileged. I'm the us. And Dr. Sacco called me and then said, I told her, yeah, I know it's a fibroadenoma. You want me to take it? I'm going to take it on January because I ain't got the time. And she said, sit down. Anytime a doctor tells you sit down.
Yeah.
And I was like, sit down for what? Who are we sitting for? And
Yo, black people.
and she told me, she's like, you have, estrogen ER, which is estrogen progesterone positive, but I was HER2 positive, estrogen progesterone lowly positive. And I was like, okay. In the big scheme, everybody listening is like, what? But it's a type of breast cancer you have. I understood it intellectually, but lost it. And I started to bawl. And she said, I know you're not going to go to sleep. I'm not going home eating till 4. I'll be waiting. I started crying. My colleague who spoke 5 languages spoke to me Creole, English, French, Spanish. I speak English and Spanish. I think something clicked and he went on to the medical side. What's your diagnosis? And I told him. I had patients and I said, I'm still going to see these patients. He thought I was lost my mind. And I said, it's not their fault that I have cancer.
Right.
I had
Wow.
a Muslim sister and a Christian brother who said, I don't know what happened, but each one of them prayed over me. And that's a blessing. I called my sister who was up for, she's an attorney, was up for a job. And I was like, this would happen. And she was like, I'm leaving. I'm like, no, you're not. And she was like, I'm coming. I told Dr. Pemberton, who literally closed her office and had her nurse practitioners take over and was like, and her, physician assistants, what have you, was like, I'm going to go see Dr. Dakota. So who gets an attorney and their OBGYN to sit with their surgeon to ping pong back and forth?
Right.
So even after that, deciding if I should have children, would it make me probably throw me into more advanced cancer because of stimulating my eggs? It was a lot. I collapsed outside. I couldn't handle it. And so then the hardest part was telling my parents. And you met my parents. My parents are very
Yeah.
outgoing, and my dad's like, bring everybody over. He's that dad. My mom was like, they were always that people. So, we first my surgeon asked me who was my medical oncologist. And I said, Charlize Ponce from the Atlantic Health Group. And she was just like, you have a award-winning team. I said, yes, you. So Dr. Ponce, Dr. Pemberton, myself, and my sister will go out to eat. None of us eat. We sad. Everybody talking about what's broken up in his body. And then we go to my parents' house. My father thought, great, the girls are here. And my mother's looking at me like, mm-hmm. So my mother knew something was wrong and, all kinds of conclusions. And then when I told them, she lost it. She really did not handle it quite well. My
Wow.
father looked like he had been sucker punched. So my sister went with Dr. Pemberton to take my mom upstairs to calm her down. My mom calmed down, prayed, then only wanted to hear it from Dr. Pemberton. Dr. Pont stayed with me and my dad. And my dad goes, I know she's going to lie to me to protect me. I don't want to hear it from you. I want to hear it from you. Because we all could be as kids. We all know each other. We've been friends for
Right.
years. So when everybody was on the same page, we came together, collectively prayed, and my parents, who are great West Indians, offered us sweet bread and tea. And we're like, yes, mom,
Right.
yes. That is Grenadian, my mom is Trini. And so it was amazing from that. And then, it was a matter of getting the family, on point. It was, I'll never forget it. A lot of people will ask, what you consider
Mm.
5 year mark. For me, from the time I was diagnosed, started the time period where I was like, let's go. I literally went through every test in the world and I began chemotherapy 3 weeks after.
Yeah,
With
I feel like with yours, I feel like with your when you received the news, like you was like this.
again, I'm an usser. I'm not of them. And so my colleagues were like, what? And so, we were on it. We were on it. Even having the
Yeah.
access for chemo, I only had it in for 72 hours. So when they accessed it, it hurt like bloody hell, but I understood the medicine replicating or cells that are turning over, more cells, cancer. And that was in my mind, like, we got to go, we got to go, we got to do this. I want this out of me. So I had neoadjuvant therapy, which I mentioned to you guys, which is chemo first, because my tumor was the size of a golf ball. So we did 6 back-breaking rounds of that, which I almost thought it
Mm.
was going to kill me. Didn't eat well, never threw up, had, diarrhea, the whole, craziness, had to get GI involved. I even thought about quitting chemo. I was just, distressed, went through a breakup. It's just craziness was going on.
Mm.
Um,
Wait, you was in a relationship and you went through a
I was
breakup?
dating, yes, I was dating someone going through a
Wow.
breakup, but that
And
was
did
God
he know about the about you?
and was there initially and then wasn't. But that's okay. That's God. Rejection is not rejection. It's protection, and it was the best thing that ever happened. So
You gotta be a special type of person to leave
listen. Life
somebody.
happens. You don't.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everybody deals differently. So it is what it is. But out of that, 6 rounds, and then my tumor shrunk. And I remember getting the news, like my doc was feeling on me, and I'm like, what's up, sis? And she's like, do you feel that? And that got me crazy. I was like, feel what? Oh my gosh, I feel what? She's like, no, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. And so then I went for surgery, and it was so small. I literally went the day before my 45th day after I had my online birthday party. I left my online birthday party, went to get injected around my nipple, which is called sentinel node biopsy. Next day, went in for a wire guided mammogram, which you can imagine a wire in your boob and they're swishing your boob, and then the surgery. And then my
Wow.
margins came back negative. Had a break. I was like, yay, I'm feeling good. And then started 22 rounds of radiation with Coach Mo, who you met, got me through working out daily to keep my immune system up.
Right.
I had 5 rounds more of hormonal chemotherapy, which is much denser than the taxotere, carboplatin, Herceptin, Perjeta, which is the biggies, as I like to call it. And then I found a lump in the other breast, negative for cancer, but I had it removed. And that celebrated my cancer anniversary, my first
And what was how long was this? Like what was the time
a
frame?
year. I started 12/3/2019 and had my last treatment, I think 12, the first week of December 12/20, and my final surgery for the other breast that did not have had a tumor, which was not cancerous. So it was a year. During that time, you're talking about COVID. So
Right.
I took myself out of the OR because I do surgery. Um, also do I took myself out of the nursing homes. It was God taking me out of that because I didn't really know about COVID. And then I remember my sorority sisters came back from a conference saying somebody got sick from COVID. I started learning about it. And then I was like, oh my God. And we all know what COVID was. I had the pleasure, the privilege of consulting 5 different doctors, cardiology. My dearest big sister, Dr. Ann Maitland, one of the baddest chicks in the game, I like to say, allergy immunology in the country. Dr. Suzanne Greenwich, who was my former OBGYN, Nicola I mean, everybody. My former boss was a cardiologist. And no one could tell me, what do I do now that COVID's happening? Will I live? Will
Right.
I die? How do I finish off the rest of this chemo? I mean, insanity.
How did you
Great,
stay hopeful during that time? Because I feel like
great
with
insurance. That's what kept me
yeah.
hopeful. I tell everybody I have one of the best disability policies. It's expensive and makes me mad every month, but it was the best where I could relax and it covered me to be able to stay home, have my expenses paid, relax, get to trees, meditate. So I did that from March through July when COVID was at its height, and it
Mm.
protected me. I say cancer kind of saved me from COVID because a lot of doctors were working in the hospitals, coming out of their specialties to do ER, whatever the case may be, or in practice. And I wasn't exposed to that. I did work up until March. I did come back. Everything was always around my chemo schedule part time. And,
Right.
my staff, where I used to work, protected me. They were very much like, if you had a hut, you were not being seen. We weren't.
Right.
I was being protected by that and God, and double mask with a 95 mask and a surgical mask over it and goggles to protect myself and prayer. And
Yeah.
I made
Listen,
it.
the fact that you beat breast cancer in the middle of a pandemic and you were still working,
That book
God,
is gonna come. That book will come because
oh, I already know.
so,
I already know. Listen, God forbid something was to happen, I'm with you because I know we gonna make it. Because
you
that
know,
is crazy. But I'm happy you did bring up the health insurance because that was one of my questions on did you have any financial challenges, but you had great health insurance. And
I
the reason
was
why I
so
asked is because sometimes the economic realities of many Black women, they don't have access to proper care.
exactly. So what do you do? And one of the things I'll use the Touch Black Breast Cancer line. They have an American Cancer Society, but definitely between the two, they list resources. There's grants that they give for women. There's people who need rides. Some people have nobody in their lives, so there's somebody to take you. Somebody will have, my medical bill is 2,500, and there's a grant will be like we wiped it clean. So there's so many
Mm,
resources that exist. There's free mammography. There's free um, ultrasound. Sometimes you can get different states have different regulations. There's so many organizations like that will pay for you to just, give you fresh vegetables while you're going through this treatment.
yeah.
Or even a free trip somewhere where you're just like, I need to get the hell out of here because I'm about to lose my mind and I just need something different in front of me. So these organizations that are doing that are amazing because it makes cancer more palatable. The hospital gives complementary therapy. Unfortunately, I only got like I think the first treatment because COVID, I got reflexology on my feet, which made me sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and Reiki, but there's therapy that's free for patients. Um, I would tell people again, the advocacies are the heart of knowing the information
Yeah.
outside of insurance. And if you do work for a company or what have you, get that. Don't dumb down that disability insurance when they offer it. Get the best. You don't know what you don't know, but when it comes, it's such a blessing to be like,
Yeah.
that is
You also make good points because I have a partnership with St. Jude. So last year they flew me out to go back home to Memphis and to learn more about what they do. And I'm like, damn, I didn't know they do all this stuff. Like make sure the parents have a home to stay in,
home
food is
staying the McDonald
provided.
house. Mhm.
Yeah, like I'm like, let me go and give them a couple of dollars because they really do a lot to make sure that these families are not interrupted on a day-to-day basis, but also making sure the child is receiving the proper care.
Could you imagine having to worry about where to stay and finances and your baby is
Yeah.
going through cancer? I mean, I'm an adult and I'm still somebody's baby, but a baby, I mean, that's the last thing that any parent should have to worry about. They need to focus on, giving their love to their child, and versus worrying about expenses. So that's a blessing that that was started so many years ago. Um, and thank God for that. And people who donate for it.
Yeah. Did you ever feel isolated because of the social distancing that was going on within the pandemic?
Somebody just asked me that, and I said one of the things, the blessing that God gave me was that I think if I had to go through cancer non-pandemic, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm so social that not to be social in the world is happening regardless,
Yeah.
and people are out in your home, but the world wasn't happening. Everybody was home. Hey, I'm home too. So, Zoom became our best friends. Hey, girl. And I probably connected with folks that I probably didn't connect with as much as I should have just because life was lifing, where it was so great to see this and girl, what's going on and talk and catch up. I think it did it for a lot of us in spite of the despair, in spite of the loss, in spite of the pain, in spite of the tragedy, the connections were being made. For me, I was grateful that people, friends, cared, took the time to reach out to me via text, via Zoom, Facebook, whatever media that we were using, that just to say, I'm thinking about you. And it meant the world to me.
Yeah.
And, to be able to just talk, so that's why I started the advocacies and started talking on Zoom because I'm a talker. I'm like, I need to
Yeah.
get out of me. Here we go.
And were there any unexpected lessons about self-love or body image that came along with your experience with breast cancer?
So again, the comedian in me. One was I told my plastic surgeon, listen, you're my new boo. You're my boyfriend. And cropped up at the garden. I was like, I need you to make me look good, okay? Because I'm dating. And I want to know that, I don't look like Frankenstein. let's use those surgical, because I mean, even to the point that they wanted to put not the regular implant that most people know, but this type of implant in me. And I absolutely refused because we use a type of material in the foot. And I'm like, that's not going to dissolve. I don't care what you say. So advocating for myself was important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, feeling, trying to feel, I would always wear makeup when I did chemo. My face was beat because I was like, and I had my African wrap on, and people were like, it made me feel beautiful when I,
Yeah.
my lashes reduced 50% in width and length. My eyebrows, which were very thin, reduced even more. So all I saw was gauntness, and that I made fun that it was a great way to lose weight, I think, on a video. And people looked at me like, and I was like, listen, I'm going to make fun of myself, because if I can't laugh at me, what can I laugh at? And
Yeah.
for me, that was important. So body image, just, and especially my hair started growing back and seeing it grew back. And right now it's blown out, but I keep my hair natural. But, you know, different texture. My hair grew in silvery gray. I was like, oh, no, I don't gray. And my friends were like, she's lost. I started doing henna to cover them up. And just different experiences that challenged me each time. And I was like, am I going to rise to this? And when I didn't, having somebody to fall back on, my family, my friends, when I was in tears and I was crying, I was emotional, I was angry at the world, and I didn't want to talk to people. I wanted to be like, to help with everybody around me, because you're not going through what I'm going through, or the decisions I had to make. That's hard.
Yeah. Did you have to forgive yourself for not listening to yourself the first time, or like because you pushed it back?
It
What did
did.
that look like? Yeah.
Crying. There's many, I think that more than people know, as they say, you only see a lot of this. Many times there's times I stayed in bed and just cried all evening, cried the next day, did a lot of prayer, got closer to God. One of my sorors, study sisters, Dana Fleming, and I have been doing the Bible app since then. That encouraged
Mm-hmm.
me. She'd write, I write. Read it, write. I got a book, a gratitude book, where I have to write something I was thankful for. And it'd be simple during COVID. You know what? I know everybody says maybe I was going cuckoo loco at the time, but I believe that God for me gives signs. I am a sign person.
Me
And
too.
I used to have red-bellied robins, which are popular in New Jersey, but during COVID really came out. And one would always sit on my deck, and I would look and be like, and they're supposed to represent that the best is yet to happen. If you're worried about something, let it go. And Native American culture says it's an ancestor looking over you, which for me would be my maternal grandfather. So I would go into my surgeon or my medical oncologist's office and know, and be like, yeah, the test is negative. Like, did you look it up? And I'm like, you guys don't have privileges with things health. And I'm like, I'm telling you. And I would tell them why. And I know sometimes they were like, okay. But I was right each and every time. I said, it's God giving me a sign. I need that. And he's giving
Mm-hmm.
it. So having that was for me life altering, because I would be looking for it, anytime I would go for testing. Testing anxiety is real, especially
Yeah.
because I'm like, here I go talking to God in the MRI machine, like, Lord, if it's your will, keep me alive. If it's not your will, please let me go peacefully, painfully. And that's what I always prayed for. If it's your will, I'm gonna keep, rocking to the end.
Yeah.
Show me purpose, and here we are.
Yeah, I went to go get a test in, I think like last year, and
Mm-hmm.
they found a lump in my breast. So I had to go back and get additional testing, and it was like very uncomfortable. And I just remember talking to God. I'm like, come on, God. Like I said, we're not doing this. I was like, I'm like, please hold it down. Cause it's very scary.
It is scary, and that's the times that your faith becomes your blanket.
Yeah.
What, I don't care if you're Jewish, Muslim, Jah, I
Buddhist.
don't care, but whatever you
Right.
are, your faith holds you down. I know science can only do so much. Faith is the other part of it for me, and I had to have both. I had to have both. I believe God does for those who do for themselves. So I was willing to do,
Facts.
if he was willing to take me there. And it was his will that he did. If it wasn't his will, I actually had made peace with that as well. But if it wasn't his will, once I wasn't in excruciating pain, that I would be okay with that if it was a purpose that he had.
Really?
And I think a lot of people like shocked when they hear that. And I'm like, because I didn't know, even though I knew that, yes, it was a cancer I could survive, COVID changed the game. And that's when I was like, real conversations that I had to really think about.
Looking back before you received the news, do you think you lived your life fully?
Not enough. People may have thought so. I think in certain areas, that I'll keep to myself, that I might be a little bit more intimidated or shy about.
Yeah.
And because people see this me, and I say,
Yeah.
tries to be bold and brave has their own insecurities like any other woman,
Yeah.
and any other person, and sometimes, you don't feel so pretty, sometimes you don't feel like, you underestimate your worth or your
Yeah.
ability to do something. Sometimes you make decisions based on where your self-esteem is at that moment, where you're like, oh, well, I guess I have to accept this, and you don't.
Yeah.
So I think that it tested me to look at myself differently. And I'm still a work in progress. And I like that, I'm an incomplete work in progress. And I'm good, and every day is a new day, a new lesson. So I'm thankful for
Yeah.
that.
That was a real answer. I really appreciate that because I think a
You're
lot of
welcome.
times when people see us and we be all lively, this and that, I
And
think
they
people
think,
forget.
oh, they're great, they're doing well. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's it,
Like
yesterday
life is
my
life.
stomach hurt.
Right.
I just like doing nothing. But you know what? I plug on. Or you know what? For women who are menopausal, you know what? Ooh, I get in a hot flash and don't talk to me. Don't put that fan on me. Because that's real. It's real. And I feel like we shouldn't, yes, I might make breast cancer look sexy in a way, but I don't, make it less than it is. It's real.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it's a journey. And some of us are on the journey for lifetime, and just because 5 years comes, there's always the chance of recurrence, and it's always in the back of my mind. But
Yeah.
there's some things I got to leave to God and live this life. And that's what
Yeah. And with that being said, how has your perspective on health and wellness changed? Because y'all, she had us working out at this event. I was like,
you saw
nah.
me squatting. So at the event, I took off my heels and I said, we're gonna do, Coach Mo was like, we're gonna do squats. And I was stretching, I was squatting, and I was like,
Yes.
because I think people think that I wouldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah.
With this
Um,
cute little pink dress on, y'all. I was like,
my
nah.
cute little heels. I was like, let me throw, and I took them off. I knew he was coming off. I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. We squatting, we lunging, I need to improve my diet. I'm working on that. I was good at it. I fell off. I'm trying to get back to it. I and working out. I try. I had some health challenges again where my hemoglobin A1C, which is tested for diabetes, was fluctuating, and I had lost 10 pounds. And it was still fluctuating. So my endocrinologist has me on medication that's
Mm-hmm.
helped me lose weight in addition to doing the things I need to do. And we fall off. I'm human like anybody else. We're like, but we get back on, and it's a struggle every day. But I'm trying to be in it to win it.
Yeah. I watched your Zoom when you had the 1 year anniversary, and I was like, oh, this is
The
a
party.
party. Yeah. I was like,
You know
why
what?
is it
If
going?
any of my friends watch this, they complain. I'm gonna make fun of them. I couldn't get. First of all, I didn't even think we would have that many people on.
Y'all, she had like at least what, over 50 people?
100 people on.
I was like, nah,
And
this
we
is
didn't do because
lit.
Zoom. I think what was it? Free Zoom gives you what, up to 50 or 100? Which one is it?
I think it was 100.
Okay, so that's what we had. Not knowing, I didn't think we get 50. People had an attitude with me, like texting me, how come I can't get on this, like going to the club? I was shocked.
No,
I,
I was shocked too.
I was so shocked that we had so many people still wanted to log on. I wasn't in charge of it. I have a group called the Sora Posse that we talked about. If you ever watched Girls Trip,
Yeah.
Story Sisters and I, Dr. Monique Gary, who spoke, one of the top breast
Oh,
surgeons.
she was so good.
My other good girlfriend, Dr. Kelly Drew Lockhart, who's a psychologist, amazing, and my other dear friend, Sora Posse, Emily Nichols Mitchell, who's a consultant. It comprises this group. So they threw me the party. So for once, I'm a type A and like to be. Da, 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 they were like, fall back, sis, you got this. So people are texting me. I'm like, I'm not in control of this. I'm just here to, party, bop to music, and saw the comedians. You saw the advocacy speak. You saw my
Yeah.
grandmother speak that had me in tears.
Yeah.
You saw my parents. You saw ex-boyfriends in college. I mean, just people from all walks of my life that touched me beyond my wildest dreams for that. Nothing can beat that
Yeah.
because it was through COVID and I was alone in the house. I'm so emotional about it, but it was amazing.
No, it
Yeah.
was beautiful. I mean, I just met my guest recently and I was watching and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Like I was so happy for you because sometimes you never know how your life can impact other people. So to see you get that much love and people wanting to show up for you and just pour into you, like seeing your grandmother, I was like, oh my goodness. Like it was a beautiful thing to see.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
I was amazed. I was amazed. I don't have better words than that. That I know that's the word of the day, amazing, but it was amazing.
I feel like Zoom owes a lot of people a check, man.
Yep, it was. I just sat there and I was like, wow, and I had, I think I had a glass, I had non-alcoholic liquor because I don't drink, and I was like, and music's going, and I had DJs. I had
He definitely had a DJ.
Larry Blackman, Dynamite Black. Thank you.
Yeah.
My Alpha, my sorority sister, Jamie Rallifer, DJ Miss Chu, and I'm forever grateful for them.
Yeah. So for those who are supporting a loved one with breast cancer, what would be your advice to give to them?
Listen, you're gonna have sometimes there are gonna be people going to want to talk to
Mm-hmm.
me, and there's times they don't. You need to don't ask them what they need. If you're a type A, you're never first of all, you don't know what you need until you're going through it. So I can't tell you I need this. You don't know. It comes as it goes. Number two, sometimes just show up. When my girlfriends Passion and Jennifer showed up, I was mad as hell because I was just like felt like I was losing control. But that for me showed their love and their empathy.
Yeah.
Great, like I said, church members from Abyssinian Baptist where I love, showing up and dropping off food for my parents and coffee. I love coffee, but I knows that decaf. Somebody bringing me that, Dunkin' or Starbucks. I was like, God bless you. Things like that. Or like cheap date. Thank you for the
Yeah, I
coffee,
love coffee.
girl. Okay, so you don't know what they need. Show up and be like, I'm here. Even sometimes just sitting there. I remember Dr. Pemberton again, one of my dearest friends. We did just on the phone watching some crazy. I used to watch a lot of comedy because comedy would make me laugh. I mean, from Chappelle to Joe Coy. I mean, just cracking up. And I think comedians understand how much joy they bring
Yeah.
for people. Sometimes, the content can be, a bit, but it
Yeah.
makes you laugh overall. Chris Rock,
Cat Williams.
Yeah, Cat Williams. I'm like, Lord have mercy. But I needed that. And I mean, and I don't know if they'll ever see that, but I say thank you for that. Because I would sit back and just die laughing. I'm like, ouch, would bring out the pain out of me and just
Yeah.
joy. So, and all the movies that were released in Netflix, I was like, thank you,
Oh,
Netflix.
that was a good time. Tiger King.
Yes, to Netflix.
Oh,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Amazon. It got me through. I'm reading great books. I'm an avid reader, a voracious reader. Then sit on my couch or my deck when it was warm and just read and enjoy, nature.
Yeah. Wait,
Uh,
when's your birthday?
Taurus, May 19th.
May 19th. Okay, okay. I don't know why. You was giving me Aquarius vibes.
Oh no, I have Aquarius friends. My bestie's in Aquarius.
Oh, I'm an Aquarius.
Oh, my bestie Leonard Roberts is in Aquarius. Great guy. Now I'm a Taurus.
Okay, I can see that. I
Sensual,
can see that.
passionate. When we think we're right, God help you. And when we get
Oh,
us
please,
back,
God help you.
God help you again.
Right, right, right.
But we're loyal and we're faithful. We're friends. We love it. Ride or die.
Yeah. And last but not least, based on your own journey, what advice would you offer to someone who has just been diagnosed with breast cancer?
Get a second opinion. I ain't caring nothing about these folks who are my medical colleagues. Zero. I told them, I said, I'm getting a second opinion from Sloan Kettering. And if it doesn't match, we have a problem. And I know people will look at it probably like, yes, this is my life. It's your life. And this
Yeah.
is not the time to be shy. I didn't care whose feelings were hurt during that period. And I wasn't trying to be rude or hurtful. I needed to live. And I needed to make sure that I was getting the best care. As I said, I have a million allergies, which we talked about when you came to my event. So
Hmm.
my doctors didn't know if I would tolerate. I could have had anaphylaxis and died from it. Having the blessings of Dr. Ann Maitland, contacting her one of the top universities in the Northeast, and coming up with a protocol that my doctor used to make sure my chemo was all day as a result. Doing cool cap, which is a type of cap that you wear that gives hyperbaric oxygen, super super cold oxygen to preserve my hair follicles because I love my hair. I'm a diva. I'm a black woman, and I wanted my hair back, and it preserved a lot of my hair. Being a testimony for that, because there's not a lot of great studies on women of color. Um,
Right.
Knowing about that, asking questions. Why do I have to do this type of treatment versus that? Percentages. If I don't want to do a mastectomy, how much longer will I live if I do a lumpectomy? And asking that. Having somebody who can write down everything. Because you're, I mean, my brain
Yeah.
like Fruit Loops. You're going to be the same way. You need somebody who can be, I've got this, to write down everything. I almost like did. I'm so sorry, Dr. Bond. I cursed her out when she told me I had 5 more sessions of hormonal chemo. I swear she liked it. I was mad as hell. My girlfriend who curses out another doctor.
You
And I
are.
went to my sister telling her, you know what she told me? My sister was like, sis, she did say that. If my sister didn't tell me that, I would have said that was a lie. That just shows how I blacked it out. I couldn't handle it at the time. My body protected me like, didn't want to hear about no 5 additional chemos. So you need that. You need to, if something's not right, don't just brush it off. Go and see your doctor. And if your doctor's not giving you, go see another doctor. You know, don't let, especially people of color, times we don't always get the best care. Do not brush it off. Make sure that your concern is addressed. If something doesn't feel right, probably not right. Make sure that you're getting that. And you know what? Talking to people. You
Yeah.
don't have to tell the world, that's your private right. But you know what? Even if it's an advocacy where you let me tune into this like you're doing now,
Yeah.
maybe this will make the next woman who maybe didn't want to go to get tested. Maybe it'll make somebody go, you know what? I did not feel comfortable enough with the answer that I got. Maybe I need some more information. And if this is what the journey is for me, thank God for it.
Yeah. And we should be going to get tested every year, right?
So usually, again, unfortunately, in my opinion, I think that mammograms and start at the age of 40. If you're high risk, like I was, I did mammograms earlier. I think I was started at 35. If you have a history of breast cancer in your family, 10 years from the time that your mother, sister, aunt, what have you, grandmother was diagnosed. So it's different, but the standard is a mammogram at 40.
Okay.
Demand as a woman of color to ultrasound.
Right.
Again, you need both to truly determine that cancer or not. Doing a biopsy is obviously the gold standard, but we don't know the biopsy is anything if you can't see it.
Right. That
So
part.
definitely you want to push for that. And young women, there's new technology out, DEXA, which Dr. Gary is affiliated with, a type of similar to an ultrasound, but it's elastography. Having these newer technologies coming in that hopefully insurances will start covering that can have, better techniques for younger women to get scanned, and doing a self-exam, check your breast,
Yeah.
what do you feel like? So if something doesn't feel right, go to your doctor and be like, I had this here last month. Now feel this. What do you think? Knowing,
Yeah.
knowing what, and men checking your pets, knowing what your own chest feels like, especially men who had women in their family with breast cancer. You're at risk. Check your pets.
Yeah. I'm so happy we was able to do this. I'm really excited for everyone to hear this because I don't think that we have enough awareness around this. And I think that you do such a beautiful job with sharing
Thank
your
you
story.
so
So thank you
much.
so much. No,
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much. I appreciate having the opportunity. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
And then we got to get this book out, y'all.
The book will come. I can't wait. If anybody listening wants to help with it, let me know. We also have Sisters on the Vineyard, which is our philanthropic arm. It's the retreat for health and wellness and financial literacy. Last year, this year that we just happened, we had Sunny Hostin as our keynote speaker, Malik Yoba is our guest speaker, sponsored by Pfizer, Eli Lilly, JP Morgan. It was an amazing event at Martha's Vineyard. We're going into year 3. And then stepping forward with my podiatry, my black job.
Yes, your black job.
At blackdoctor.org monthly from 7 to 8 o'clock, the first Wednesday of the month. So, can't stop, won't stop. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And until next time, everyone. All right, to my guests, thank you so much for being on the show. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling great. Thank you for having
Okay.
me.
Looking good. Brown skin for the win.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, I'm super excited to have you on the show. We actually met at the same breast cancer awareness event that my last guest was on. And when I heard your story, I was just so shocked because I never knew of a woman, especially a black woman, at such a young age that was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I really appreciate you for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Absolutely. I think it's important for people to know that breast cancer could affect people at any age. I mean, I was shocked when I was diagnosed at 28 years old. So I definitely think it's important to spread awareness.
Do you often find that people are surprised when they hear about your diagnosis at such a young age?
Yes, absolutely. And not only just like family, friends, coworkers, even when I go to the doctor. And when you're checking off, like, do you have like history of cancer? And it's like, yes. And then the doctors are always shocked. So, and
Yeah.
even my breast surgeon and my oncologist, even though they do see younger patients, they just find it shocking to see somebody so young and healthy that has had cancer.
I feel like when you went to the stage, because it was a part of the program when survivors were coming up to the stage and sharing their story. And when you spoke, I feel like everybody was like, wow. Like I feel like it really hit everybody. Did you feel like that too?
Yes, yes, I
Yeah,
did.
right.
Yeah, and it kind of made me feel like, wow.
Right. It was like it was so surreal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you think the conversation around breast cancer in the Black community changes when it's about younger women?
When it's about younger women,
Hmm.
I think so, just because nobody really thinks about it happening to younger women, especially
Yeah.
under the age of 40. And I think we don't really talk about the different signs and symptoms of breast cancer at a younger age.
Hmm.
And like
I agree
when
with that.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's important to have those conversations because my breast surgeon even told me this, that her patients are getting younger and younger.
Mm.
So um so it's important to spread awareness about.
So, what would you like for younger women to know about risk and early detection?
Well, it's important to first recognize the different signs and symptoms. So everybody knows a lump,
Right.
but another symptom is bloody discharge coming
Hmm.
from the nipple, um, change in size, tenderness, as well as dimpling. And there are several other signs and symptoms. Sometimes you don't have any signs. So I think even in schools or even just through social media, it's important to make younger women aware of those different symptoms.
Hmm. Now, how long has it been since you've been breast cancer free?
It has been 2.5 years.
Yay, good, good,
Yes,
good. How do
yes,
you
yes.
feel?
I feel good. I feel like the first year was the hardest. I
Mm.
was dealing with a lot of anxiety, medical PTSD, and after getting the diagnosis and having the surgeries, it's almost like when things start to cool down, it's like, what just happened? Like, I just
Yeah,
didn't really have a chance, like going through everything to process what was going on. And then
yeah,
after, it's kind of like, whoa, like I went through all that. But now I'm in a better place and I'm able to move forward um, with life. And I've been through a lot of counseling, and now I feel like I'm in a space where I could I could help other people, like other join groups and help other survivors and share my story like I am.
yeah. Are you ever hesitant to share your story?
Um, no, no, I'm not.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the only situations where I'm like hesitant to talk about it is, for example, with work. A lot of drinking is involved,
Hmm.
like a lot of happy hours, events and stuff. And I don't drink alcohol because I'm on a few medications that are already hard on my kidneys that I just don't want
Yeah.
to consume alcohol. And also there are links between alcohol and breast cancer. That's what I was
Mm.
told by my doctors. So I stay away from it. So sometimes when I'm at events, I'm being asked like, well, why aren't you drinking? And
I hate
it's
when
just
people do
like,
that.
mm-hmm,
Like, nigga,
yeah,
I'm not drinking. That's why.
exactly. And there are a lot of different reasons why people don't drink. It's like you could be like a recovering alcoholic, or you
Right.
just don't like the taste. So um sometimes I just say I don't feel like it. But if I'm like really um like if somebody's like really being a pest about it, then I'll be like, because I'm a breast cancer survivor.
And then they feel like a
I
dick.
don't want to. Right, exactly. Then it
Right.
get then now the situation is awkward. So those are like the only,
Right.
so that's really like the only situation like where I don't feel comfortable talking about it.
Right.
But for the most part, I'm very open. I don't feel ashamed about my diagnosis or anything.
Good. Now, looking back, did you ever have a gut feeling or a physical sign that made you think something was wrong before you received the news?
Yeah, so in early 2021, I remember I went shopping and I was trying on clothes and I remember feeling the lump. And at first I didn't think anything of it because I was just kind of like, was that always there?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kind of ignored it. But then something told me to just go online and look up like what does a breast cancer tumor feel like?
Mm-hmm.
And it said that it would be irregular. What is the word? Irregular. It would be an
Irregular,
odd shape. Yes, irregular shape. It, and it would just feel like
rubbery.
yeah, rubbery and lumpy. Like it wouldn't
Yeah.
be like just one lump. It would feel like multiple lumps in grooves. And that's kind of what it felt like. And I was just kind of like, well, maybe I should get this checked out. I didn't physically feel bad, but it was just that lump that made me feel like, oh, there's something off about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And take us back to how you first found out that you had breast cancer. Like, where were you when you received the news, and what prompted you to go to a doctor after realizing that you had a lump and doing your own research?
Sure, sure. So when I went to the doctor about the lump, she just ordered an ultrasound. She was asking me about any family history and my lifestyle, and she was just like, "Oh, it's probably nothing, but we'll just get it checked out anyway." And after doing the ultrasound, it came back that it wasn't anything to really be worried about. It was a benign fibroadenoma, which is common in young women,
Mm-hmm.
and to just follow up in 3 months. So I followed up, and they said there was no change, follow up in 6 months. And that was when I was living in Florida. And then I moved back to New Jersey, and it was probably like 2 months after my last checkup in Florida where I realized I had bloody discharge. And that's when I was like, okay, this is not normal. And
Right.
that's when I decided to go to the doctor again. But now in New Jersey, this was a different primary.
What were your thoughts when the first doctor in Florida told you it was nothing? Because when you said that during the event, I was like, wow, like these doctors are like, I just feel like they just don't, and not all of them, obviously, but I just feel like certain doctors just don't care, especially when you are in certain states. So, like,
Yes.
what were your thoughts about that? Like, talk about that because when you said that during the event, everybody was just so shocked. But this is like a reality for many women, especially women of color.
Yeah, yeah. So when the doctor first told me like, "Oh, you don't have anything to be worried about," I mean, I just trusted them. I was just like, "Okay, they know what they're talking about."
And you were
I
young.
Yep, I was young, and I looked up fibroadenomas, and um there were some threads on Reddit about it and how people were like, "Oh, I thought I had breast cancer, but it was really just a benign mass." I'm thinking like, okay, like this is a common thing. And I was going back to the fact that yeah, I don't have a family history of breast cancer. I have been a vegetarian most of my life. I work out all the time. I had a very, very healthy lifestyle. So I didn't think that it would have been cancer. So I just trusted them. I was like, okay, this is something that, I don't have to be worried about.
Yeah. Did they ever find out what causes since you don't have a history of it? You're very healthy. Like, did they ever find out what was this where it stemmed from?
Yeah, so they don't know for sure because I even did all the different genetic testings to see if there was any mutation, and I tested negative for all of them. Um, but after talking to my breast surgeon, we really think it could be stress because when I was living in
Mm.
Florida, I was really stressed out. I wasn't happy. I I moved to Florida from Jersey for college. I went to FAMU in Tallahassee. So I was there for 4 years, and I loved it when I was at FAMU. But after I graduated, I moved to Sarasota, Florida, where I was living for 6 years, and I it was good for work, but it wasn't good for
Personal?
my personal life at all. And
Mm.
I was in a couple of relationships that weren't healthy for me. So I just know that the stress was really wearing on my body.
Did you have
And
girlfriends? Like, did you have friends that you can like talk to and stuff?
not locally. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that could have played a role. I mean it's hard for some people to believe that because it's just kind of like, oh well, it's just stress, but no, stress does play it can take a toll on your body. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Damn, that makes me kind of like, because I don't think people understand the value of having community. And we was just talking
Hmm.
about that before we got on.
Yup, yup. Yeah, yeah. So when you said that, I was just like, okay, yeah, we definitely have to
Yeah, what are
get
the
together.
odds?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because being being lonely and just not having that support system around you is it's hard and I'm just thankful that that I moved back and I just feel like I'm in a much better headspace.
Yeah. And I can't even imagine how overwhelmed you felt with just all the medical information.
Yes, yes. It's almost just like when the doctors were talking to me about like all the different things I have to do, I just couldn't even hear them. I was just like, just
How could you?
yeah, yeah. So I need to take it one step at a time because I don't know what you're saying. You're talking about all these different options. When they would ask if you have any questions, I would just be like, I don't even know what to ask.
Yeah. Like,
I
I
don't
don't
know
even
what
know
you're
where to
talking about.
begin.
Right,
Right.
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 Yeah.
So, what kind of treatments did you go through, and how did you handle the process, both physically and emotionally?
Yes. So the first thing I did was I had a bilateral mastectomy. So even though I only had cancer in my left breast, I decided to do the other side just because I didn't want to worry about cancer developing
Hmm.
on the other side. And also I wanted my breasts to be even. And even the doctors were saying that, you know, if you do the other side, you won't have to worry about like ever doing a mammogram or anything like that. There will be nothing there for cancer to.
And can you explain what that is, just for certain people, certain listeners who may not understand?
Yes, so that's the removal of the breast tissue.
Okay.
So they take out the tumor as well as all of the breast tissue.
Hmm.
So I actually had that surgery the day before my 29th birthday, which is crazy.
Wow.
So I spent my 29th birthday recovering, and it was a 5 hour operation, and I had four four drains because I had immediate reconstruction. So that's when so the breast surgeon does her part first. So she took out the tumor and the breast tissue, and then the plastic surgeon went in there and put tissue expanders, which are technically like temporary breast implants.
Hmm.
And I had those for 3 months. And after 3 months, then I got the permanent breast implants. And so
That's
that
a
was
lot.
it is a lot.
And remind
And
y'all, she's very, like, you're very petite, like you're small. So I can just only imagine how that was a lot for your body.
yes, yes, it was definitely a lot. And luckily I didn't have to do radiation. They were talking about me doing radiation. Um, and that would have caused a whole nother issue because you can't put a breast implant in a radiated breast because it like burns and shrinks the skin.
Right.
So a lot of times what women do if they have radiation is they get fat transferred from another area of their body and put into the breast. But when they were talking about me having radiation, the plastic surgeon was like, well, like there's no fat for us to take. So it was almost
Hmm.
like, I would just have one flat breast and then one with the implant. And then they were talking about, well, maybe you could try to gain weight and then we could take the fat and put it into the breast. It was like a whole thing. But then it ended up being that, okay, you don't have to do radiation. So then I could get the breast.
Good. So are you on
So,
medication now for it?
yes, yes. So I am on medication called anastrozole.
Mm-hmm.
But that medication is designed for postmenopausal women. So in
Mm.
order for the medication to work, I'm in a chemically induced menopause through a medication called Lupron. So that's a shot that I get into my glute muscle every 4 weeks. So it could shut down my ovaries and essentially put me into menopause. So the daily medication that I take could work.
Wow.
Yes.
Listen, I know you just like, I can't. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
It's a lot, and there are
Yeah.
side effects that come with it. Like I get hot flashes and body aches. For some people, it causes weight gain. It can cause weight loss. There are just a lot of different side effects, and it's also very expensive. That's like a whole nother thing between the surgeries and the medications. It's like I've spent so much money. Like of course insurance covers it, but then there's still a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. Like
Yeah.
just the reconstruction alone, I think like it's like a $300,000
Oh my.
operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I have a high deductible with my insurance, so that was like done. And then even like my out of pocket maximum, like just from surgery alone, like luckily I didn't have to pay um after that, but it was just yeah, very very expensive.
Yeah, that's my next question because with the first guest, she's a very successful professional, and obviously she worked in the medical field, so she had a lot more luxuries when it came to access, and also she had great insurance. So when I wanted to talk to you about it, because being that you were younger, and you know when you're young, you're trying to figure shit out. So I was just curious to
Hmm.
know, like, what did the financial stress look like for you, and what were some of the challenges you overcame? Because I can only imagine how much. I mean, $300 for a loan is crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
For
It
your
was
health.
yep, it was very stressful.
I can imagine.
At at that point I didn't really know much about the the HSA. Like I
Yeah.
knew that I had it through my company, but I never really looked into it. So when the bills started rolling in, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how am I supposed to pay for this? And luckily, I had just moved back from Florida and I was staying with my parents. So I was like saving a lot of money by not having to pay rent. So that was helpful. But
Yeah. Thank God you had that.
yeah, yeah. And luckily, like with medical bills, I don't think it really impacts your credit. Like it's like due like when received or whatever
Right. You
the
pay when
um
you
the where you pay when you can and they could
right.
work with you. But it was definitely a lot. And even dealing with the insurance company was really frustrating because like breast surgeons and plastic surgeons tend to have like a partnership. Like
Mm-hmm.
they like to work with their network. But the insurance company wants you to work with who they choose.
Right.
So so like they'll call you and I guess scare you in a way, saying like, oh well, this plastic surgeon isn't in our network and you could end up being stuck with a $300,000 bill. Like we've seen it happen before. But my plastic surgeon told me, he was like, even though I'm not in your insurance network, like you won't get billed. We
Right.
will we will accept what the insurance company pays us.
Mm.
And and I just didn't know like what to believe. Like it was just a lot. Um, it's like you don't learn this stuff in school about negotiating
Yeah.
with your insurance company and medical professionals.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
Were there any surprising lessons you learned about self-love and body confidence throughout your journey?
Yes, yes, there was. Well definitely like with self-love, like not letting anything stress me out. Like I don't really sweat the little stuff anymore.
Yeah, she's so cool, y'all. Like when I tell
Oh,
you, we saw each other at an event and she just be so laid back and chill. And I'm like, me, I'm all like bouncing around excited and shit.
oh, thank you. Thank you. But
Yeah.
thanks. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel, I don't want to say like nonchalant because that could be taken in a negative way. But I guess that's just kind of how I am. I mean, there's pros and cons to it because sometimes it might feel like, oh, like let's say a friend is complaining to me about something and I'm just like not super reactive about it. It's not that I don't care, it's just that I just can't pour like a bunch of energy into something
Yeah.
that really is small.
It's like, girl,
Um,
you know what I've been through? Like, girl,
I
you'll be
know.
fine.
I know, and it's like I understand that it might be stressful. Like I don't know, like the nail tech messed up your nails. It's like okay, yeah, that is really annoying, but I just can't
Right.
force a lot of energy into it. Um, I never really had like body dysmorphia.
Hmm.
Um, like even with my counselors, like they would always ask me about that, and I would just say, I'm not really concerned. I mean. It's like my plastic surgeon did a great job. It's like I got breast implants covered by insurance. So it's just kind of like I have scars, but I mean, I'm I'm comfortable with my body. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a good thing.
And how does this journey affect your mental health?
Oh my goodness. It was just so stressful. I dealt with a lot of anxiety,
Hmm.
um, more so with food as well as the environment
Yeah.
because I don't know how I got cancer. So I'm thinking like, well, was it in the food? So like everything, all like veggies that I eat now are organic, even though it's more expensive. Like my
And that's
nutrition.
another thing. You try to eat healthy and the shit be costing an arm and a leg.
Exactly. So it's
It's
just
so
kind of like
expensive
you can't win.
for
Uh,
losing.
hmm But yeah, I was really anxious about the type of food I was eating. I still get anxious about it. Water, not wanting to drink anything in plastic. Like everything has to be
Yeah.
like glass. I get worried about even soap. Like even like when I bathe, I just use like African black soap, like no more Dove or anything that has like a bunch of
Yeah.
chemicals in there. Like I just try to be as natural as possible. And even like just yeah, cleaning products. I
It's a lifestyle
everything
for sure.
it's yeah, it's a whole lifestyle. I mean, I'm not as crazy about it as I was before, but that's definitely something that took a toll on me. Um, I feel like after like my surgery and everything, I was just easily like triggered by things like even just hearing about cancer, like I just didn't want to like consume it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people would hear that like oh like you had cancer it's like oh like my aunt had breast cancer and passed away or like this person had cancer and passed away in my life and I'm thinking like that's not like
Like, why do I want to hear that right now?
yeah like that's not a good connection like I don't want to
Right.
like that would just make me feel like it made me feel what do they call it survivor's remorse in a way
Mm.
yeah um
Talk
and
about
I
that
have
more because
mhm.
I think that's very profound that you said that because I think a lot of people who are survivors can relate to that because I feel like sometimes when I have these conversations with people and they survive like breast cancer or like I even had a conversation with a girl, she survived a plane crash out of 100 people,
Oh,
her and one of her classmates. And she was saying how like she felt guilty for surviving.
yeah, no, it's a real thing because well, a lot of times when we hear about cancer, breast cancer in society, like, you think about people passing away.
Yeah.
And so many people have passed away from cancer, but also a lot of people have survived it. And, when I hear about people not making it, it's just like, wow, like why did I survive and why did they
Yeah.
lose that battle? Um, and I even think about the like my I had early stage breast cancer. It was stage 0 and stage 1.
Mm.
So sometimes when I say that, I feel like, well, does it really count? Because I didn't have to go through chemotherapy and they didn't give me like, oh, you only have X
Wow.
amount of, you know, months or years to live. Like it's like sometimes I feel guilty about that
Right, right.
because there have been some people when I said, oh, it was stage 0 and stage 1, they're like, oh. But so then I'm kind of like, did
Well,
I not really go
damn.
through anything?
Right.
Like,
Like,
it's
don't
like
try to belittle my journey with breast cancer. Like, I still had it.
yeah,
I
I
just
still had it.
right.
Like I still lost my breasts. It's like I'm still going through this
That's
five-year
crazy.
5-year treatment plan. So, and then I have a friend from high school that had ovarian cancer, and like her recurrence rate is something like 75%.
Mm.
So it's just kind of like, whoa. Like for me, my recurrence rate it's very low. It's like an 8% chance that it
Wow.
would come back. But I feel like, oh, like almost like, okay, my cancer isn't valid. Like that's how I feel sometimes, even though that's not true. It's not
Right.
true at all. But that's something that I deal with or that I think about sometimes.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we connected because I really do feel like your story is like it's so needed. Like I think it's so important. And I knew that I wanted to have you on just by how everybody was just like really like they was listening to everybody, but they was really like being attentive when you was talking.
Wow.
And also it was a
And
lot
I
of
was
young girls
nervous.
and yeah, it was a lot of young girls in the place too. So like I think that your story is so important. So I'm really proud of you, sis.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that, that the audience took something from it because even, like including you, other people came up to me afterwards and I was just like, oh wow, like
I know.
I
I
was
was like,
really hurt.
let me get her information because everybody was around you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how did your friends and family support you? And did you ever feel isolated due to being younger than the typical breast cancer patient? And your friends probably, were young outside, having enjoying themselves. Like,
hmm Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It definitely was a lonely experience because nobody my age could really relate to
relate.
it. They
Right.
could just relate to being like maybe a caregiver to their mother, grandmother, etc. But no one was really understood like what it's like just going to the different appointments and like getting the news. It's just and even with my immediate family, I was living at home with my mom, dad, my sister, and my brother, and like they were very supportive. Like they were there for me, but
Mm-hmm.
they just didn't know how to really, I guess, be there for me because this is so
Right.
new. They, it's like having a family member with cancer is just like how could I support them? It's like of course it's like a whole thing for them too.
Yeah.
Like I mean like even at the event, like talking where the panelists that were caregivers of people with
Yeah.
cancer, it's like that was an important conversation to have as well. Um, but my mom, like she would cook for me. My sister would like my sister made this bowl of notes for me, like I am strong or like I don't know, like just little like positive affirmations, and like she wrote them on little pieces of paper and like put them in a bowl. So it's like whenever I'm feeling anxious, I would just like I take one out and read it. Like she would just do like little things like that for me,
Yeah.
and they would always remind me how much they care for me and everything like that. So I definitely had great family support. after my surgery, I received a lot of flowers and edible arrangements and like in gifts and stuff.
You
So,
know, Black people love edible arrangements.
oh, that's right, and that's true, and I loved it,
Me
and
too.
I really felt like I remember I had like a table of like, all the flowers and gifts, and I was like, wow, like people really care about me
Yeah.
because I was just coming back from living in Florida, and I felt so isolated and sometimes like forgotten about.
Mm.
So the fact that so many people reached out to me and sent me stuff like during my time of recovery, I felt like wow, like I really do have a amazing support system.
Yeah. Did any of your friendships change?
Um, I feel like I got like closer to some of my friends.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't feel like there was any. I didn't like fall out with anybody. I feel like I just got closer to
That's good.
people.
And how has your perspective on life changed?
My perspective on life, I know it sounds cliche, but like, every day is really a blessing.
Yeah,
And it's such a blessing to be able to say that I'm healthy because people deal with all sorts of things.
that's a
Like,
fact. It's hard out
yeah,
here.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that, not just cancer, because like because cancer is like the only um medical issue that I've ever dealt with.
Mm.
So so even just being able to say that, I'm just really grateful. And trying to think of what else like with my perspective on life. Joe, just going back to don't let anything stress you out because
Yeah.
it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Facts. Facts. And I know you mentioned earlier that you have a 5-year treatment plan.
Hmm.
So once you're done with that treatment plan, like what's next? Like, is there any other things that you have to consider besides obviously maintaining your lifestyle? But and what does that plan consist of besides the medication?
Yeah, so I see my oncologist every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I just do a bunch of blood work. They're checking my kidneys to make sure that the medication isn't too hard on it. They check my blood to make sure that there's, I guess, there's no cancer, and they just check like a bunch of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to do any mammograms because when you have a bilateral mastectomy, you don't have to do that. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do MRIs. Maybe, and I see my breast surgeon once a year. So there is definitely a lot of monitoring
Mm-hmm.
involved. And after the 5-year treatment is over, we haven't talked a lot about what that monitoring will look like, but I'm sure I'll continue to still see my breast surgeon and my oncologist at least once or twice a year just to make sure that I'm
And I don't know if you want to have kids or if you have kids or not, but if someone was in your similar journey, does this affect them having kids in the future?
yes, yes. So I don't have kids. I have a fur baby. So
Oh,
my dog, I have a chocolate lab. Like she was there with me in Florida, and even when I came home from the hospital, like she just laid down on the couch right next to me and just didn't leave my side. So she's like she was a
oh,
big support through all this. But yes. So before I started the the treatment, I was asked if I wanted to freeze my eggs because I'm gonna be in menopause. Um, I wouldn't be able to have kids.
right, right.
Um, but I said no. And the reason for that was because I was so done with going through procedures and going to the doctor that I was just like, no. And
Yeah.
also the expense part of it. Like I was already spending like so much money
Mm-hmm.
and like insurance would only cover a certain portion of it. And then you have to pay for the storage of the eggs. So so that it was just my decision to say no to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't mean that I won't be able to have kids in the future. It's just that I think the doctor explained to me that I'll just be older. So when I'm done, I'll be around like 34. But that's not to say that a 34-year-old can't have kids. It's just that if I froze my eggs, they would have been the eggs of a
20
28 year
something.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than a 34-year-old. And let's say I like really wanted to have kids right now. I would be able to stop getting the shots and stop taking the medication, like have a kid and then go back on it.
Hmm.
So there's options if that was something that I really wanted, but that's not where I am in life right now.
Right.
So it's fine. But that's like a whole nother stress that breast cancer survivors have.
Yeah, yeah. What advice would you give to young women about advocating for themselves in medical spaces, especially when doctors might not take their concerns seriously?
Mhm. Just advocate for yourself. And if something doesn't feel right, it's okay to get a second opinion. Because
Yeah,
I got a second opinion with the lump, and I also got a second opinion when I saw a breast surgeon because the first breast surgeon I saw was not the one that performed my surgery.
yeah.
My first breast surgeon made me feel uncomfortable,
Mm,
and I decided let me go find someone else. And my breast surgeon that I went with was a black female,
hmm.
and she was amazing. So um so yeah, just advocate for yourself whenever you're in at a doctor's office and something doesn't feel right. There are a lot of medical professionals out
Hmm.
there.
You
You could
know,
get a second opinion.
having somebody that looked like you is so important. I spoke about this briefly with the first guest, but I had a breast cancer scare maybe like a year, not a year, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And the first, I went for a mammogram and then I went for an ultrasound. And the nurse, I think she can tell that I was just so nervous because I was just by myself. And I didn't want to tell everybody because I didn't want to scare my loved ones. And the
Mm-hmm.
way she took care of me and like made me feel so comfortable. And I don't think people really understand the value of having people that look like you in those type of spaces because I was calling her auntie and shit. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
couldn't imagine those individuals who go through this by themselves because it's a really scary process, especially when you don't know the correct terminology, you don't know what's going on. Then you, like you said earlier, you thinking was this lump always there or whatever the
Yep.
case may be. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. Like there were some nurses that were just so they were just so comforting, and they just
Yeah.
understood that, this is a really stressful time for you. Because sometimes I felt like, oh, like they deal with this all day. Like what makes me special? But some of those nurses and doctors, they just made me feel seen, and that I wasn't just a number in
Yeah.
the room. So
And I'm thinking about my cousin. My cousin, he from the hood. So I didn't want to like stress him out. But I told him about everything. So when I got down to my doctor office, he was like, y'all good? Y'all good? And I'm like, nigga, who is y'all? And he's like, you and your girls. I'm like, child.
oh, that's
I
so funny.
was like, yo. But last but not least, what advice would you offer to someone in their 20s or 30s who had just been diagnosed with breast cancer?
Hmm. Wow. I would say take everything just one step at a time,
Yeah.
and just know that one day this will be a distant memory.
Yeah.
That's something that I told myself going through the process, and anytime I would get anxious or worked up, I would just say one day this will be a distant memory, and that would always help me. Um, Counseling definitely helped. I didn't
Hmm.
know if it was gonna help me. I wasn't opposed to doing it, but I didn't think it was gonna really do much, but it did. And also I would say take time off of work
Yeah.
because I didn't take a lot of time off um because I had just started my job. I was diagnosed like 1 month after starting a new job.
Mm.
And even after my surgery, I was supposed to take 6 weeks and I only took two.
You only took 2 out of 6 weeks?
Yep, yep.
Wow.
And
Damn.
I felt it later. So prioritize yourself, because this is a really serious thing. Um,
Damn, that's a whole nother conversation.
yeah, yes, it is. It is. And just don't let anybody make you feel guilty, ashamed, or stressed because it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And also that they're not alone in this, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I am so excited that we met, y'all. We live in the same state. I don't know how. I think we're pretty close to each other, and I'm just
yeah,
really
we're
looking
in the
forward.
same county.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm really looking forward to building this friendship with you because I feel like when we first met, and even having this conversation with you, like I'm really excited to have to know you and also just be a part of your journey. And then also, I was telling the first guest, I was like, I've been doing my show for almost 6 years, and this is the first time that I had an episode on breast cancer awareness. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yay!
I picked two really amazing women to have this discussion with. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. And it is really therapeutic for me to be able to actually talk about it because
Yeah.
I've never really openly shared my story like this. So thank
Oh,
you
I
so
pop your
much. Yeah,
cherry.
that's right.
And to the listeners, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please make sure to email me at hello at thephgpodcast.com. And like I always say, make sure you share your storyline because you never know how it can be somebody else's lifeline. So until next time, everyone, later.
Thank you so much.
Of course.